G'day, ladies and gentlemen. Big Ranker here, and it's time for my round 3 review from the NRL 2017 season. So what I do here is I like to look at my ranks and how they have changed based on all the matches that have just occurred over the weekend. And I do this to get a feel for how the ranks are going and get a gauge for how results affect the ranks. A good thing to note is the ranks are heavily skewed towards recent results. So when a team has a bad win, a bad loss, or a big win, they will get a big change of ranks. So keep that in mind when you see some of your favourite teams possibly down towards the bottom, i.e., don't send me abusive messages. Let's jump into it. So here I have this was the rank table after round 2. And then after round 3, you'll see some teams are very, very big changes. A few teams are flat. Keep this whole context in mind as I go through each match. I'll show you that in relation to this entire layout. So the teams towards the top are obviously more towards the top of the ranks. So Storm versus the Broncos. Here it was after round 2 before this round, a 14-12 result to the Storm. It's about even. The Broncos slight lift, Storm a slight dip. So that was probably saying a 2 to 4 point victory to the Storm at home against the Broncos, to be expected. Not much to comment on there. Move on to the Bulldogs versus the Warriors. So this is one where the teams were very closely ranked start of the round. It could have gone either way. It went to the Bulldogs, who were the slight ranked favourites at home, theoretically, even in New Zealand, and a 12-point win against them. That's a medium to strong win. So you can see the Bulldogs get a lift up and the Warriors continue their downward trend to the bottom. Not looking good for them at the moment. Let's move on. Titans versus the Eels up at Gold Coast. And you can see they've had a mirror season. Eels trending up, Titans trending down. I personally felt like the Eels were overrated, especially with all the injury hoo-ha that went on about the Titans. I didn't think the Titans were going to win or win by 12. That was definitely not in my viewpoint, but they did. And the result of the ranks has shown that they have come right back to even, essentially. And that's, I think, to be expected. A 12-point victory over a pretty strong Eels team on the way up. And 12-point victory by the Titans has brought them right back to even. Good result for the Titans, really. Knights versus Rabbitohs. So if we look at the results here, the Rabbitohs have not had a good start to the season. The Knights have been okay, but they're just such a cellar dweller in terms of the ranks that they need some big results to go their way to lift them up. They're heading in the right direction, and a 6-point loss to the Rabbitohs, it's about a break even after the round. Like, it's about what the ranks would expect, so they don't change. And I think that makes sense. Like the Knights aren't blowing anyone out of the water. They're still a pretty poorly ranked team. They need to string a couple of strong wins together to get out of that rut. Panthers v the Roosters. This was good going. So in terms of ranks, you can see the Panthers were a pretty big gap there. If you watch, this is how they ended up. 2-point loss to the Roosters, so the Panthers come back a bit, the Roosters come up. If you watch my round 3 preview video, I actually said in it, I kind of circled an area around here saying I think that's a more valid gap. I thought the ranks for the Panthers were a little bit too high here, and you can see where they've ended up. So they've ended up pretty much exactly at that gap that I predicted. So that's a part where my gut has played a good part there. But the reason I do the rank is to use just the sole numbers-driven analysis. And I like where these two teams have ended up now. They're both strong teams. Cowboys v the Eagles. So this was a great one for ranks. Let's have a look. Cowboys have started the season with 2 close wins against strong opposition, the Raiders and the Broncos. So their ranks have been pretty flat. The Eagles have not had a good start. They were very much on the way down, looking rubbish, to be honest, and they travel up to the Townsville to play the Cowboys, and they give them a smashing, and you can see a 22-point away win against the Cowboys has essentially brought these two teams back to even. And you're going to think that's an overreaction, but this is how it works. Like, the Cowboys should be a strong team, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th, and to get beaten so convincingly by a ranked 14th or 15th team, it turns them around. And that's the point of the ranks. It really highlights recent form, and they shouldn't get beaten by that. So the ranks, they're right back in the middle now. Raiders versus the Tigers. So 2 teams have started okay, up and down. Tigers more down than up. The Raiders, got a bit of a surprise by Cronulla last week, but still a strong team, and they evidenced that with a big thrashing of the Tigers. The Tigers are now they're going to give Newcastle a run for their money if they don't turn it around in terms of hitting the lowest rank. And the Raiders, well, they're back up into second rank now. Strong performance by them. Final game, Sharks versus the Dragons. Both teams have had, mixed starts to the season, and the Sharks were pretty strong favourites there at home. A fairly decent gap in ranks between the teams would indicate a good Sharks win, but the Dragons got up by 6, and you can see what it's done to the ranks there. They've come back a fair bit. The Sharks probably just under where they started for the season, but overall the Dragons, even though they're up and down, trending in the right direction. So it could be a better year than most expected for the Dragons if they continue that. And now look, just recap, here's where they all are in the overall table of ranks. So there's a couple of things I like to note is up these two teams here, that's the Storm and the Raiders. So the Storm are still number 1, but the Raiders really establishing themselves as that second team. Big gap down to the next two, Broncos and the Panthers, and then another gap down to the Roosters and the Sharks. And then there's just this big bunch of teams in here who are all competing for the final few positions. And these bottom 3, New Zealand, Tigers, Knights, all looking pretty rubbish in terms of ranks. The Knights are probably actually looking as the best, or they're the most improved out of those 3, but they just started so low that they've got a long way to go. So this isn't perfect, but I find it interesting. And just to sort of go over that, I'll take you through the actual positioning on the table now. So my top 8, based on my ranks, is the Storm, the Raiders, who've moved up 3, the Broncos, who've also moved 3, the Panthers have dropped 2, the Roosters up 3, the Sharks dropped 2, the Eagles up 8 with that 22-point win over the Cowboys, the Eels dropped 1, bottom 8. Cowboys have dropped 6, the Titans stayed where they are, the Rabbitohs have dropped 2, the Dragons have stayed where they are, the Bulldogs have dropped 2, the Warriors have stayed where they are, the Tigers have dropped 2, and the Knights have stayed where they are. So that's the overall layout of the ranks. It's, like I said, it's not an exact science, but it is an interesting way to look at the teams and the results and to use that going forward. But that's it. Leave comments. Let me know if you like it. Let me know if you want to see more of these. Subscribe. Give me some love. Watch my other videos. And then until next time, good luck.